Hello everyone. Our topic of discussion of this course Oracle SQL language, and by the end of this course you will be able to write basic SQL queries in your database. What we learned in the previous video, we learned SQL data types, SQL operators, SQL expressions. What are what are we going to learn from this video? SQL database. Topic which we cover in this video is how to create database, how to drop database, how to select any database. So let's start. The SQL creates database statement is used to create a new SQL database. When you are installing your software, means Oracle in your machine, that time you have to create first the database. So at the time of installation process itself, by default you are creating a database in your machine, which is actually which having all the schemas and everything in built-in script itself. So the basic syntax, suppose if you are in scratch database you are trying to create in your database schema in your machine, then you have to use the basic syntax of this create database statement. It's just like create database name, and always the database name should be unique within the RDBMS. So suppose you already created a database like ABC, and if you are trying to create the same database name again, then it will throw error that this database already exists in your system. So you have to give a unique name of your database. So one example is if you want to create a new database, uh, test DB, then you have to write create database test DB. So this is the syntax you have to follow. Make sure you have the admin privilege before creating any database. Once a database is created, you can check it in the list of database as follows. Show database, and you will get all the database table name, all the database name, information schema, Armut, MySQL, Oric, test DB, like that. All the database name you will get. So this is a process you can retrieve the database name from the server. So when you're trying to create any database, you have to use the below syntax create database test DB, and you will able to create that database in your machine. And this is how you can retrieve your database name. How to drop database? The SQL drop database statement is used to drop an um, existing database in your SQL schema. Suppose you want to you created a database and you don't want the database from your server in your server, then you have to drop the database. So you have to use the database syntax is drop database name, and this is how it will drop the database, and whatever the objects present in that database, everything will be dropped. Nothing will be present in your machine or in your server. Always the database name should be unique within the RDBMS. This is also um, same for the drop statement also. Means suppose if you are putting like this syntax drop database test DB, and after dropping that test DB, again if you are trying to run the same script drop database test DB, it will throw an error that it's this database already exists, not exist, or this database is not found. So this type of uh, message it will throw. Be careful before using this operation, because by deleting an existing database would result in loss of complete information stored in your database. I already told you, when you're creating a database, why you are creating the database. You will want to store some data in your database, in a particular text database. So you can create table, you will create package, procedure, function, index, view, everything. Many objects you created in the database, but when you are dropping the database, it will drop all these objects with your dropping the database itself. So be sure, be careful, to before drop the database from your server. Make sure you have the admin privilege before dropping any database. Without admin privilege, you will not able to drop any database from your system. So it is a mandatory requirement that you should have the admin privilege before dropping any database from your server. Select database. When you have multiple databases in your SQL schema, then before starting your operation, you would need to select a database where all operations would be performed. So that means the SQL use statement is used to select any existing database in SQL schema. So when you have multiple database in your SQL schema, then before starting your operation, you need to select a database. Suppose you have A, B, C, D, like the way you have five database in your server. So before doing anything, you have to select which database you want to do the operation. Like we want to create any object, we want to select any object data. So you have to select first the database. This is the first step of multiple database you have, and you have to do you have to do any operation over one particular database. Then you have to select the database first. To do that one, you have to use the syntax use database name. Through that way, you can select the database, and then after selecting the database, then you can able to perform your operations like creating the object or any DDL, DML, DCL operation you can perform over that particular database. So the basic syntax of use statement is as follows: use database name. Always the database name should be unique within the RDBMS. Example, you can check the available database name through like show database, and then now if you want to work with the Armud database, then you can execute the following SQL command and start working with the Armud database. Use Armud, and then Armud database will be loaded in your server, and then you can run your script. You can create package, you can create table, you can drop table, you can insert into the table. Everything will be stored in your Amrut database only. It will not inserting any other databases. When you are selecting the database, please be sure in which database you want to store the data. Then only select the database using use command. By this thing, this is the topic we are covering, that how to create database, how to drop database, how to select database. Thank you. We will come for next video very soon. We will come for, yeah.